They've ended relationships before, walked away from people, said goodbye to partners who wanted more than they could give, left situations that required more intimacy than their defended system could sustain. The leaving was familiar, comfortable even, part of their pattern. When closeness triggered their wounds, when intimacy became too threatening, when someone's needs felt too demanding, they left, protected themselves through distance, and the leaving never haunted them. They moved on relatively easily, felt relief more than grief, experienced the departed person fading from their thoughts within weeks or months. Previous partners became distant memories, people they used to know, relationships that ended without leaving permanent marks. The forgetting was easy because they were the ones who left. They controlled the ending. They initiated the distance. They decided when and how things concluded. This control meant they could process the ending on their terms, at their pace, with their defended position intact. But then there's you. You're different. Not because you loved them better, or understood them deeper, or were more patient with their patterns. Though maybe you were all those things. You're different because you did something no one else did. Something their defensive system wasn't prepared for. Something that inverted their entire relational template. You rejected them completely, not halfway. Not with the door cracked for their eventual return. Not with hopeful waiting or continued pursuit, despite their pushing away. Completely. You chose yourself over them. You walked away and stayed away. You accepted their patterns as deal breakers rather than as challenges to overcome through your patience. You left them before they could leave you. Or you accepted their leaving with such finality that their usual ability to return when convenient was eliminated. You made yourself unavailable in ways no one else had made themselves unavailable. And this complete rejection, this being the person who chose to leave them, or who accepted their leaving so thoroughly they couldn't return, has created outcome they cannot shake. They cannot forget you, cannot stop thinking about you, cannot move past the loss in ways they've moved past every other loss. You haunt them, occupy space in their mind that previous partners never occupied, refuse to fade the way everyone else faded, and the inability to forget you, the permanence of your presence in their thoughts, despite your absence from their life, creates crisis they've never experienced before. Understanding why avoidants cannot forget the person who finally rejected them completely reveals something crucial about their psychology and about why your complete rejection is the only thing that ever truly reaches them. The 3 reasons. Complete rejection creates permanent. Mark on the avoidance psychology. The avoidance inability to forget the person who completely rejected them is driven by specific psychological mechanisms that make this particular loss unforgettable in ways other losses weren't. You inverted their fundamental relational template. They're supposed to be the one who leaves, and being the one left destroys the narrative their ego depends on. The avoidance ego is built on specific narrative. They're the valuable one, the one who's pursued, the one who gets to decide if relationship continues, the one who leaves when things get too close, the one with power in the dynamic. This narrative protects their wounded self from the vulnerability of being rejected. If they're always the one leaving, they're never the one being left, never experiencing the abandonment they fear, never in the powerless position of being rejected. Every previous relationship confirmed this narrative. They were the one who ended it. They were the one who pulled back. They were the one in control. The narrative stayed intact, but you inverted it. You rejected them. You were the one who left, or who made their leaving permanent by refusing to pursue their return. You put them in the position they've spent lifetime avoiding, being the rejected one, being the one who lost, rather than the one who chose to leave, being abandoned rather than being the abandoner. This inversion destroys the narrative their ego depends on. If they can be rejected, if they can be left, if they can be the powerless one, then the narrative they've built their identity on is false. They're not the valuable pursued one who always has control. They're just as vulnerable to rejection as everyone else. This destruction of fundamental narrative is why they can't forget you. You didn't fit the template. You inverted it. An inversion created crack in their defended worldview that won't heal. You proved that people can survive without them, destroying their unconscious belief that they're essential to those who love them. The avoidant unconsciously believes people who love them can't survive without them, need them desperately, will be devastated by losing them. This belief protects their ego, makes them feel essential, makes them feel safe that they matter. Every previous partner who pursued despite rejection, who waited despite withdrawal, who stayed devastated by the loss, confirmed this belief. See? People can't survive without me. They need me too much to actually leave. They're too attached to move on. But you disproved this belief. You survived. You moved on. You built life without them that appears not just functional, but better than life with them was. You're thriving in their absence. You don't appear devastated, don't appear unable to function, don't appear to need them at all. This destroys their belief that they're essential. Proves people can not only survive losing them, but can thrive after losing them. This proof is devastating to their ego. If people can survive without them, if you specifically can thrive without them, then they're not as essential as they needed to believe. Not as significant as your previous pursuit made them feel. Not as necessary as their ego required believing they were. They can't forget you because you proved something that threatens their entire sense of significance. You don't need them. Never needed them the way they believed you did. Can thrive without them in ways that prove they were limitation you escaped, not necessity you lost. You created the only loss they couldn't control, and loss of control is the specific wound their entire defensive system exists to prevent. The avoidance core wound is powerlessness. Their defensive system exists to maintain control, so they never feel powerless the way they felt powerless in childhood. Every relationship where they were the one who left was them maintaining control, deciding the terms, controlling the outcome. The control protected them from the core wound, but you took away their control. You rejected them before they could reject you, or you accepted their rejection so completely they couldn't control whether it remained reversible. You made yourself unavailable without their permission. You left without them being able to stop you. You controlled the final outcome in ways that eliminated their control. And losing control, being powerless over whether you stay, whether you return, whether the relationship continues, activates their core wound. The wound their entire defensive system exists to protect them from. This wound activation is why they can't forget you. You didn't just create loss. You created the specific type of loss, uncontrolled loss, powerless loss, loss they couldn't prevent or reverse, that their entire psychology is organized to avoid. Every other loss they controlled. This loss controlled them. The difference is unforgettable. How the complete rejection follows them through every future relationship. The permanent comparison. The avoidance inability to forget you manifests specifically in how you contaminate every future relationship through creating standard no one else can meet, and through haunting every intimate moment. Every new person gets measured against you, not against your qualities, but against the fact that you were the one who got away because you chose to. Future partners aren't compared to your kindness or your understanding or your patience, though those might be part of it. Future partners are compared to the fact that you're the one they lost, the one who rejected them, the one they couldn't keep, the one who got away not because they pushed you away, but because you chose to walk away. This creates a specific type of comparison that's impossible for new people to win. New person might be kinder, might be more understanding, might be more compatible. Doesn't matter. New person isn't the one who got away, isn't the one who rejected them, isn't you. The comparison isn't about qualities, it's about status. You have status no new person can achieve. You're the one they lost through being rejected rather than through choosing to leave. This status makes you unforgettable, makes you the permanent standard, makes every new person feel like settling because they're not the person who represents the loss the avoidant couldn't control. They cannot recreate the dynamic they had with you because the dynamic required your specific willingness to tolerate patterns that new partners won't tolerate. Part of why they can't forget you is they can't recreate what you provided. You tolerated their patterns for extended period, gave them patience others won't give, accepted their withdrawal, their emotional unavailability, their defended distance in ways that allowed relationship to continue, despite patterns that would end most relationships quickly. You created specific dynamic, you tolerating their patterns while they maintained defended position. And this dynamic felt comfortable to them, felt safe, felt like relationship where they could be defended self without consequences. New partners don't provide this. New partners have boundaries, enforce consequences when patterns harm them, don't accept the level of poor treatment you accepted, leave earlier, require change faster, won't tolerate patterns indefinitely the way you did. The avoidant is discovering they can't find the dynamic again, can't find someone who tolerates their defended position the way you tolerated it. This inability to recreate what you provided makes you unforgettable. You're not just person they lost. You're dynamic they lost. Dynamic they can't find again because it required your specific psychology, your patience, your hope in their potential, your willingness to accept insufficient treatment for extended period that new partners don't have. During intimacy with new partners, they think of you, the person they couldn't keep, haunts the moments that should be about the person they have. New partner, intimate moment, vulnerable connection, and they're thinking about you, comparing this intimacy to intimacy with you, wishing this person was you, wondering what you're doing, whether you think about them, whether you've moved on completely. The thinking about you during intimacy with someone else is intrusive, unwanted. They don't want to be thinking about you while with someone new. But they can't stop. You haunt the moments of intimacy because intimacy triggers the wound of having lost you, triggers memory of intimacy with you, triggers comparison between person they have and person they lost. The haunting makes new relationships unsatisfying, makes intimacy feel wrong, makes them feel they're with wrong person, because right person, you, is the one they can't have anymore. They're trying to move on, trying to invest in new person, trying to forget you, and you won't leave their thoughts, won't stop being reference point every experience gets compared to, won't fade the way everyone else faded. The permanence of your presence in their mind, despite your absence from their life, makes forgetting impossible and makes moving on incomplete, even years later. The uncomfortable mirror and turn. If you're reading this, wanting them to never forget you, examine what you're actually seeking, but stop and look at why you're reading this, why you want to know that the avoidant can't forget the person who rejected them, why it matters to you that you're unforgettable to them, why their inability to move on is something you want to understand. Because if you've genuinely moved on, if you're genuinely building life without them, if you're genuinely choosing yourself, whether they can forget you or not, should be completely irrelevant to you. You shouldn't care that you haunt them. Shouldn't need to know you're unforgettable. Shouldn't be seeking validation through their suffering or through their inability to move past you. The fact that you want to know you're unforgettable reveals you're still seeking something from them, still needing their recognition of what they lost, still using their inability to forget you as measure of your worth, still oriented toward their internal experience instead of toward your own building. This orientation means you haven't fully let go, haven't fully moved on, haven't fully chosen yourself. Because fully choosing yourself means they're forgetting or not forgetting you is background noise you don't track. Means your worth isn't dependent on haunting them. Means your value isn't measured by their inability to move past you. Stop needing to be unforgettable to them. Stop tracking whether they can move on. Stop organizing any mental or emotional energy around their internal experience of having lost you. Build life so extraordinary that whether you haunt them or they've forgotten you, completely becomes utterly beside the point because you're too busy being yourself to care about your status in their memory. That's when you're actually free. Not when you know they can't forget you, when you don't care whether they forget you or not, because their thoughts about you are completely irrelevant to your thoughts about your own life. The specific ways the inability to forget manifests in the avoidance daily life, what being unforgettable actually looks like. Understanding how the avoidant experiences their inability to forget you helps illustrate why complete rejection creates permanent mark that partial rejection never created. They check your social media obsessively, not occasionally, but compulsively, needing to know what you're doing, despite knowing checking prevents their moving on. The checking is compulsive, daily, sometimes multiple times per day. They're checking your social media, seeing what you're posting, who you're with, what you're doing, whether you seem happy, whether you've moved on, whether you mention them or show any sign of still thinking about them. They know checking is preventing them from moving on. No, they should stop. No, the checking is unhealthy, but they can't stop. The compulsive checking reveals the haunting. You're not fading from their thoughts. You're occupying their thoughts constantly enough that they need to check on you regularly to manage the thinking about you. The checking is attempt to feel connected to you despite you being gone. Attempt to maintain some access to your life despite you having removed their access. Attempt to know you're not completely gone from them, even though they're completely gone from your life. The obsessive checking that continues months or years after the rejection is evidence of the unforgettable nature of complete rejection. You're not distant memory. Your current presence in their mind that requires constant checking to feel they have any information about. Random things trigger intense missing. A song, a place, a phrase someone uses, creating sudden acute pain about your absence that doesn't diminish with time. They're living their life. Something happens. Someone uses phrase you used to say. They pass the restaurant you went to together. They hear a song that was playing during specific moment with you, and the trigger creates intense missing. Not mild nostalgia, intense, acute pain about your absence. The pain arrives suddenly, overwhelms them, makes them unable to function for minutes or hours while they sit with the missing, and the triggers don't diminish over time. Year later, 2 years later, 5 years later, the song still creates the same intensity of missing. The phrase still triggers the same acute pain. The places still produce the same overwhelming feeling of loss. Previous relationships don't do this. Previous partners faded enough that triggers produce mild recognition, not acute pain. But with you, the triggers maintain their intensity indefinitely. This permanent intensity of triggered missing is evidence of unforgettable nature of complete rejection. Time isn't healing the wound. Time is just creating more space for triggers to ambush them with same acute pain about your absence that they felt immediately after the rejection. They dream about you regularly, and the dreams are vivid, detailed, emotionally intense, in ways that prove you occupy their unconscious mind, not just conscious thoughts. The dreams come regularly, weekly, sometimes nightly. Dreams where you're present, where relationship is restored, where rejection never happened, where they have you back. The dreams are vivid, detailed, feel real while dreaming them. They wake up believing you're there. Then, remember you're not. The crash from dream to reality is devastating every time. The regular dreaming about you reveals the depth of occupation. You're not just in their conscious thoughts, you're in their unconscious. You're in their dreams because your absence is unprocessed, because the loss is unaccepted at deep psychological level, because their mind is trying to process what happened and can't process it, so keeps replaying it through dreams. Previous partners don't appear in dreams with this frequency or intensity. Previous losses processed, previous rejections accepted, but your rejection remains unprocessed, unaccepted, unforgettable. The dreams are evidence that years later, their unconscious is still trying to make sense of loss. It can't integrate, still trying to restore relationship. It can't accept ended, still haunted by a person who rejected them in ways that won't resolve. They compare themselves to whoever you're with now, obsessively analyzing whether new person is better than them, which reveals they're still competing for value in your eyes. If you're with someone new, they're obsessed with this person. Who are they? What do they have that Avoidant doesn't have? Are they better looking, more successful, more emotionally available, more capable of giving you what Avoidant couldn't give? The comparison is obsessive, painful, creates feelings of inadequacy if new person seems better in any dimension, creates feelings of anger if new person seems worse. How dare you choose someone lesser after rejecting them? The obsessive comparison reveals they're still competing, still trying to prove their worth relative to your choice, still invested in being the most valuable person in your eyes, even though your eyes are no longer looking at them. The comparison that continues years later is evidence of unforgettable nature of complete rejection. They can't accept you chose someone else. Can't accept they lost the competition. Can't stop trying to measure themselves against whoever you chose, because your choice of someone else is wound that won't heal. Previous partners move on, and their new relationships don't create this obsessive comparison. But your new relationship creates comparison because your rejection is still active wound, still unaccepted reality, still unforgettable loss that creates need to compete even when competition is over and you've already chosen someone else. Why the inability to forget? You doesn't mean they're capable of relationship with you, the difference between haunting and capacity. The avoidance inability to forget you creates compelling narrative that maybe they finally realize what they lost and maybe reconciliation is possible, but haunting and capacity remain separate things. They can't forget you and also can't be in healthy relationship with you. The same wounds that make forgetting impossible make healthy partnership impossible. They can't forget you. True. You haunt them. True. They think about you constantly. True. They miss you in ways that don't diminish with time. True. And none of this means they're capable of healthy relationship with you. The inability to forget comes from the wound of being rejected, of losing control, of being the powerless one. This wound makes you unforgettable, but the wound doesn't create capacity. The wound exists alongside their attachment trauma. their defended patterns, their inability to sustain intimacy. They can't forget you because you wounded them in a specific way. They also can't be a healthy partner because the wounds that make relationships hard for them, the early attachment wounds, the terror of vulnerability, the need for defended distance, still exist. The unforgettable nature of you doesn't reprogram their nervous system, doesn't heal their attachment trauma, doesn't create capacity for sustained intimacy. They can be haunted by you and incapable of partnership with you simultaneously. Both are true. Don't confuse their inability to forget you with their readiness for relationship with you. The missing is about the loss of control, not about missing who you actually are. They're haunted by what you represent more than by you as person. Listen to what they miss when they talk about missing you. They miss that you understood them. They miss that you tolerated their patterns. They miss that you were patient. They miss that you were always available. They miss what you provided, what you did for them, how you made them feel. They miss the dynamic where they had control, or thought they had control, until you rejected them and proved they never had it. The missing is about loss of control, about losing person who tolerated their defended position, about losing dynamic that was comfortable for their wounded self. The missing isn't about you, as whole person they now recognize they should have honored. It's about you, as provider of things they want and can't find elsewhere, as representation of the loss they couldn't control, as symbol of the rejection that wounded their ego. They're haunted by what you represent, the uncontrolled loss, the rejected ego, the dynamic they can't recreate, more than by you as actual person they now value fully. The distinction matters. Because being haunted by what you represent doesn't mean they've developed capacity to value you as whole person if you were to return. If they did genuine transformation work and developed capacity, they still lost you too permanently to restore what was. Their potential future relationship would be with different person, not with you. Let's say, best case, let's say, the inability to forget you motivates them to do genuine, sustained therapeutic work, years of therapy with attachment specialist, EMDR for the trauma, somatic work for the nervous system, genuine transformation that develops capacity they didn't have. They become capable of healthy relationship, capable of sustained intimacy, capable of reciprocal partnership. This transformation is possible, and if it occurs, if they genuinely transform, they're still not transforming back into relationship with you because you're gone. You rejected them completely. You built life without them. By the time they're genuinely capable, if that time ever comes, you're so far past them that the capacity is irrelevant to you. You're with someone else. Or you're happily building alone. Or you're so healed from what that relationship cost you that returning to relationship with person who once harmed you holds no appeal, even if they're now capable. Their transformation, if it occurs, benefits their future, benefits whoever they encounter after they've done the work. But it's too late to benefit relationship with you because complete rejection they can't forget created permanent ending that genuine transformation can undo. The best outcome of their being unable to forget you is them using the wound to motivate transformation. That transformation still doesn't restore you to them. You're gone. The unforgettable nature of the loss is permanent, even if their capacity eventually transforms. What the avoidance inability to forget you actually teaches about complete rejection, why half measures never work. The fact that complete rejection is unforgettable, while partial rejection is easily forgotten, reveals crucial truth about what actually reaches the avoidant and creates lasting impact. Partial rejection, staying friends, remaining available, leaving door cracked, allows them to forget you because you're still accessible and therefore not truly lost. Every previous loss where you stayed friends, where you remained in their orbit, where you left door cracked for their return, where you stayed available as option, they could reactivate. Every partial rejection was forgettable, easily forgotten. They moved on without being haunted, without unable to forget, without permanent marking. Why? Because partial rejection isn't actually rejection, it's just distance while maintaining access. Is them losing relationship but keeping you as backup. Is comfortable loss that doesn't wound their ego because they haven't truly lost you. You're still there, still accessible, still available if they decide they want you back. Partial rejection allows them to forget because nothing about partial rejection creates the wound that makes forgetting impossible. They maintain control through your continued accessibility. They remain the valuable one because your availability proves you're not done with them. They avoid the wound of being truly rejected because you staying available means rejection isn't complete. Partial rejection is comfortable, easily processed, quickly forgotten. Because partial rejection doesn't invert their template, doesn't prove people can thrive without them, doesn't create uncontrolled loss. Partial rejection changes nothing, creates no lasting impact, leaves no permanent mark. They forget partial rejection because partial rejection doesn't reach them. Complete rejection, no contact, no friendship, no access, permanent ending, is unforgettable because it activates every wound their defensive system exists to protect them from. But complete rejection is different. Complete rejection is you gone entirely. No contact, no friendship, no access, no availability for them to return to. Permanent ending. This completeness creates unforgettable impact, creates wound that won't heal, creates haunting that won't stop. Why? Because complete rejection activates all the wounds, inverts their template, they're the rejected one, proves people can thrive without them, you're thriving in their absence, creates uncontrolled loss. They can't control whether you return, whether connection is restored, whether they get you back. Every wound their defensive system exists to protect them from is activated by complete rejection. The wound activation is what makes it unforgettable. They can't process it, can't integrate it, can't accept it. Because accepting it means accepting they're not who they thought they were, not as valuable as they believed, not as in control as they needed to be, not as essential as their ego required believing. Complete rejection destroys their defended worldview. This destruction is unforgettable, creates permanent mark, creates haunting that lasts years or decades. Complete rejection is the only thing that reaches them deeply enough to create lasting impact, because complete rejection is the only thing that wounds them in ways their defensive system can't protect them from. Your complete rejection is the only relationship lesson they'll actually remember, because it's the only loss that was painful enough to bypass their defenses. All the lessons you tried to teach during relationship about their patterns, about what you needed, about what healthy relationship requires, they didn't hear, didn't internalize, didn't learn. Because your staying while teaching meant the lessons had no teeth, had no consequences, were just words they could defend against or dismiss. But your complete rejection is different lesson. Lesson they can't defend against, can't dismiss, can't forget. Lesson that teaches through wound that won't heal rather than through words they could ignore. The lesson is, patterns have real permanent consequences. Taking people for granted produces real permanent loss. Being the rejecter doesn't protect from being rejected. Thinking you have control doesn't mean you actually have control. These lessons are unforgettable because they're not just words. They're lived experience of wound that activated every fear their defensive system exists to manage. Your complete rejection is the education that reaches them when nothing else reached them. The education that lasts when nothing else lasted. The lesson they'll remember when they've forgotten everything else. Not because you're more special than anyone else, because complete rejection created wound that makes forgetting impossible. Use this knowledge not to feel powerful about haunting them. Use it to understand why complete rejection is the only thing that serves both people. Serves you by creating the complete separation you need for healing. Serves them by creating the unforgettable wound that might, if they're capable, motivate genuine transformation. The final truth about why they can't forget you and why this changes nothing about what you should do. They can't forget you. You haunt them. Your permanent presence in their mind despite being absent from their life. Your unforgettable wound that won't heal. Permanent comparison that contaminates all future relationships. Intrusive thought during intimate moments. Trigger that creates acute pain years later. Dream that won't stop recurring. And all of this, the entire unforgettable nature of you, the permanent haunting, the inability to move on, changes nothing about what you should do, which is remain completely rejected, remain unavailable, remain in your own life that doesn't include them, because their inability to forget you doesn't create your obligation to return. Their haunting doesn't mean you should relieve their suffering by accepting them back. Their wound doesn't require your participation in healing it. They can't forget you. True. They're suffering from permanent inability to move past you. True. And you maintaining your complete rejection is still the right choice. For you, because it protects your healing and your freedom. For them, because their only path to genuine transformation is sitting with the unforgettable wound until it motivates the therapeutic work that creates actual capacity, not just crisis-driven promises. Let them be unable to forget you. Let the haunting continue. Let them dream about you and miss you, and compare everyone to you, and check your social media obsessively, and think about you during intimacy with others. Let all of it happen without your response, without your return, without you reversing the complete rejection that created the unforgettable wound. The inability to forget you is their education, their wound, their opportunity for growth if they choose to use it. Not your responsibility to manage, not your obligation to relieve, not your reason to return. You completely rejected someone whose patterns were harming you. That complete rejection made you unforgettable in ways partial rejection never would have. The unforgettable nature of you is evidence that complete rejection reached them when nothing else reached them. Let it keep reaching them. Let the wound keep teaching them. Let them be unable to forget you for the rest of their life. And you keep building life where, whether they forget you or not, is completely irrelevant because you're too busy being yourself to track their internal experience of the loss you created by choosing yourself. They'll never forget the person who finally rejected them completely. You're that person, the unforgettable one, the wound that won't heal, the loss they couldn't control. And being unforgettable to them is less important than being free from them, less important than your healing, less important than your building life that serves you. You're unforgettable to them. Great. Use that knowledge to understand why complete rejection was necessary and powerful. Then forget about being unforgettable to them. Focus on building life so extraordinary that their inability to forget you becomes distant fact. You learned once about someone who's no longer relevant to your daily experience. That's freedom. That's the life complete rejection. created space for. You're unforgettable to them. You're free from them. Both are true. Only one determines your future. Choose the freedom. Live it. That's the answer to their inability to forget you, not returning to relieve their haunting, building so magnificently in your freedom that their haunting becomes their problem to solve, not your responsibility to manage. That's power. That's your life now. Live it completely. Let them be haunted completely. Both can happen. Both are happening. Only one matters to your thriving. You already know which one. Keep choosing it. Keep choosing it. The specific moment when the avoidant realizes you're unforgettable and why. This recognition arrives too late to change anything. There's often a crystallizing moment when the avoidant fully understands that you're not fading from their thoughts the way everyone else faded. And this moment of recognition reveals the permanent nature of what complete rejection created. They watch themselves sabotage a new relationship because it's not you, and recognize they've become incapable of fully investing in anyone else. They're with someone new, someone who's objectively good for them, someone who's kind, available, capable of relationship, someone without the complications that characterized relationship with you. Should be perfect, should be easier, should be better. But they're sabotaging it, finding fault that isn't there, creating distance that isn't necessary, comparing constantly to you, unable to fully invest because this person isn't you. And in moment of sabotaging what should be good relationship, they recognize the pattern. This is the third relationship they've sabotaged since you, or the fifth, or the 10th. Every relationship since you has ended the same way. Them, unable to fully invest, unable to stop comparing, unable to forget you enough to be present with someone else. The recognition arrives. You broke something in them. Their capacity to move on, their ability to fully invest in someone new, their capability to forget and start fresh. Previous partners never did this. Previous losses didn't prevent future investment. But you did. Complete rejection created permanent damage to their ability to attach to anyone else. They're functionally stuck, unable to move backward to you, unable to move forward to someone else, permanently frozen in the loss of you. The recognition is devastating and arrives too late. You're already gone, already built life without them, already with someone else, or happily alone. The recognition of their permanent stuckness comes when it can't change anything, because you're too far gone to be reached by their recognition. They realize they're measuring their entire life against before you rejected them and after you rejected them. You've become the dividing line of their existence. The recognition arrives through noticing how they think about their life. Everything is categorized as before or after. Before you rejected them, they felt certain ways about themselves. After you rejected them, those certainties dissolved. Before you rejected them, relationships followed certain pattern. After you rejected them, no relationship works the same way. Before you rejected them, they had specific sense of their value. After you rejected them, that sense is permanently destabilized. You've become the dividing line, the watershed moment, the event that split their life into before and after. Previous relationships didn't create this division. Previous losses were events within the continuing story of their life. But you rejecting them completely is the event that changed the story itself, changed who they are, changed how they see themselves, changed their entire trajectory. They recognize you're not just person they lost. You're the event that redefined their existence. The moment everything changed in ways that won't change back. This recognition of you as permanent dividing line rather than as forgettable relationship reveals the unforgettable nature of complete rejection. And the recognition arrives too late. because the division already occurred. The before is gone. They're permanently in the after, and the after is permanently marked by your absence in ways that can't be undone. They understand that you're the standard they're using to evaluate their own worth, and failing to meet that standard in their own eyes because you left. The most painful recognition, they're evaluating themselves through your eyes, even though your eyes are no longer looking at them. They make accomplishment. They succeed at something. And their first thought is, would this impress you? Would this prove to you they're worth reconsidering? They demonstrate growth, work on themselves, develop capacity they didn't have, and they're doing it for you, to prove to you they've changed, to become worthy in your eyes, except your eyes aren't watching. You're not evaluating them, you're not measuring their worth. You've moved on to evaluating your own life, your own choices, your own growth. But they don't know this. They're still performing for you, still trying to prove their worth to you, still using you as the standard they're measuring themselves against, and consistently failing in their own eyes because you left. If they were valuable enough, you wouldn't have left. If they were worthy enough, you wouldn't have rejected them completely. The fact of your rejection becomes permanent evidence in their mind that they're not enough, not valuable enough, not worthy enough, not enough to have kept the one person they can't forget. This recognition that they're using you as standard and failing to meet it is devastating and arrives too late because you're no longer available to provide the recognition or validation that would resolve their sense of inadequacy. You're gone. They're permanently stuck, evaluating themselves against standard of person who's no longer evaluating them at all. Why the unforgettable nature of you is actually their prison, and why you staying gone is the key they won't use. The avoidance inability to forget you creates specific prison that they could escape through genuine transformation work. But the prison is comfortable enough that most never do the work required for escape. The haunting gives them excuse to avoid genuine intimacy with anyone else. Nobody compares to you becomes reason to stay emotionally unavailable. The inability to forget you serves them in twisted way, gives them excuse for all future relationship failures. New person wants commitment. I can't. I'm not over her yet. New person wants emotional availability. I'm not ready. I'm still processing that loss. New person wants genuine intimacy. Nobody compares to her. I can't give you what she got from me. The unforgettable nature of you becomes shield against vulnerability with anyone new, becomes reason they can stay defended, becomes excuse for emotional unavailability that protects them from risk of being rejected again. The haunting is comfortable in this way, lets them stay stuck while blaming the stuckness on their exceptional connection with you that nobody else can match. The truth they're avoiding, the haunting, is choice. Is them choosing to stay attached to you as protection from being vulnerable with someone new. Is them using you as excuse for defended patterns that existed before you and will continue after you if they don't do the work. The haunting is their prison, but it's comfortable prison that protects them from risk of genuine intimacy that might lead to rejection again. Most avoidants will stay in this prison indefinitely because the prison is more comfortable than the vulnerability that escaping it would require. They could escape through doing the work, therapy, genuine transformation, developing capacity, but the haunting is easier than the work. The escape exists, genuine sustained therapeutic work with attachment specialist, EMDR for the trauma, somatic therapy for the nervous system, years of uncomfortable work that addresses the wounds, reprograms the responses, develops capacity for sustained intimacy. This work would free them, would allow them to process the rejection, would create capacity for genuine relationship with someone new, would transform the haunting from permanent prison to integrated past experience they learned from. The work is available. They know it's available, but the work is hard, uncomfortable, requires confronting wounds they've spent lifetime avoiding, requires vulnerability they've spent lifetime protecting against, requires years of sustained effort with no guarantee of outcome. The haunting is easier, comfortable, requires no work. Just stay stuck. Just keep comparing everyone to you. Just keep using you as excuse for emotional unavailability. Just keep being haunted instead of doing work that would end the haunting. Most avoidants choose the haunting. Choose the comfortable prison. Choose staying stuck over doing uncomfortable work. And this choice is why your staying gone is essential. If you're available, if you return, if you accept them back, you eliminate their need to do the work. You relieve the haunting by providing access to you again. You become the easy solution that prevents them from ever doing hard work that would create genuine transformation. Your permanent absence is the only condition where genuine transformation becomes necessary, but they have to choose transformation over comfortable prison of haunting you forever. Here's the truth. Your permanent absence creates the condition, creates the pain, creates the wound, creates the haunting. All of this creates opportunity for transformation. The pain is sufficient. The motivation is there. The condition for growth is established. But they still have to choose. Choose to do the work instead of staying comfortable in the haunting. Choose transformation instead of using you as permanent excuse for emotional unavailability. Choose genuine growth instead of comfortable prison. Most don't choose transformation. Most choose the haunting. Choose to stay stuck. Choose comfortable prison over uncomfortable growth. And this is why your staying gone serves them, even though most won't use it. You're providing the condition, the pain necessary for transformation, the wound sufficient to motivate work. Whether they use it is their choice, not your responsibility, not your concern. Your job is staying gone, creating the permanent absence that creates the condition for growth. Their job is choosing whether to use the condition for transformation or for comfortable prison they inhabit for the rest of their life. Most choose prison. Some choose transformation. Both choices are theirs to make. Your choice is staying gone regardless of which they choose, because returning would eliminate the condition, would relieve the pain, would end the haunting by providing access that makes transformation unnecessary. Stay gone. Let them have the condition for growth. Let them choose prison or transformation. Either way, you're free. That's what matters. Not whether they choose growth, whether you choose freedom. Keep choosing it.